asked my Instagram followers what their unpopular opinions were, and they were interesting to say the least, especially the last one. So stay tuned to the end for that. So get yourself comfy, get yourself a beverage or a snack. So I switched over to some boba tea, very Americanized boba tea, but hey, it's pretty good nonetheless. Quick disclaimer, these are not opinions against the person making the opinions, it's just my thoughts on their actual opinion. In true YouTube fashion, I'm going to rank this via tier list, and since we're coming off the heels of Oscar season, we have to do an award season theme for this particular tier list. So we have EGOT. EGOT is the S tier. I 100% agree with you. We are twins. We are besties. Yes. Oscar winner. I don't 100% agree with you, but we're close. I support it. Nominated but snubbed means, okay, that's a pretty good opinion, but there's still some things I'm kind of iffy about. Oscar shortlist. I'm pretty neutral about it, or there's a lot of nuance that needs to take into consideration to make it a solid opinion, in my opinion. We have Oscar bait, which is basically agree to disagree. It's a very much, I love that for you. Go ahead, go off, sis. That's cute, but it's not for me. And then we have Razzie, and I absolutely don't agree. I will block you. Not, oh my gosh, that was too dramatic. But this one is, I extremely disagree. It's basically, how'd you come up to that conclusion? Like, huh? So without further ado, let's dive into these opinions. Prey is just as good as Predator. I 100% agree. Full disclaimer, it's been a hot minute since I've seen Predator, but Prey holds its own. It really does. And it is such a solid film. Like, they really put their foot in it. That is such a black southern phrase, but you know, they really did what they had to do. I think not only is it a good film within the franchise, but like I said, it is a really good standalone film. Even though it's a sci-fi film, it really does take detail of like the historic context of the movie. I actually have some trivia here. The script was actually rewritten by 2 Comanche activists to ensure the depiction of the Comanche culture wasn't inaccurate or stereotypical. So yeah, they did their research. I absolutely loved it. It's so good. This movie is a 10 out of 10. Absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen Prey, highly recommend it. And of course, this opinion is going in EGOT. Forrest Gump just ain't it. Boring, I fear. Okay, Forrest Gump is definitely a slow burn. I wouldn't really say it is boring per se. I don't think we should really write off Forrest Gump to just be bad because it's boring. I don't really see that. But you know what? I think the thing about Forrest Gump, it both aged relatively well, but it also aged poorly for what we expect as far as Oscar nominated films, I believe. Like, if someone was to remake a film similar to this in 2025 and beyond, people are gonna be like, okay, this is blatant Oscar bait. But let's just take this into I believe this was made in 1994. Yeah, it was made in 1994. So yeah, with a 1994 context, yeah, this was a masterpiece, whatever. And I think it's still a well-acted film. Oh my gosh, I just, while I was Googling this, there's actually like running emojis. What the heck, Google? Y'all are, oh my goodness. I'm gonna put a screenshot on the video version. For those listening to this podcast version, I'm gonna put a video up for y'all. But this is so silly. Oh my gosh. But like overall, I think Forrest Gump is an okay movie. I've watched it a few times. Yeah, there are some elements that's very of its time, you know. If you're a millennial like myself, it's relatively nostalgic to a certain extent, but I can understand why people aren't really messing with this movie like they used to. Jenny is absolutely horrible. Like, no one likes Jenny. If you have self-respect, you know you do not like Jenny. Jenny really played with Forrest. Jenny really played in Forrest's face. She really did. She just dragged that man along with her avoidance issues. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't watched it, even though it's been around for almost 31 years. Yeah, it's not cute because of Jenny. But I'm going to give this opinion Oscar shortlist. I neither agree or disagree. Now, it was pretty close, ironically, being Oscar bait, but I could see with its long runtime why it will be boring. Oh, this one is so spicy. I like this one. Most people who critique movies couldn't make a good movie with a James Cameron budget. There is a stereotype that film critics, they secretly want to become filmmakers, and I think it's a case by case situation because some film critics, they just really like journalism and they just really want to talk about film to other people. That's just their specialty. And then some people want to use it as a gateway into becoming a filmmaker. There's also stereotype that critics are failed filmmakers and they just want to critique film to just kind of get back at the studios and get back at the man and get back at these filmmakers that made it, yada yada yada. And again, I'm just like, okay, I don't think we should wrap all critics into that. And also, not all critics want to bash film. I think those are really the loud minority of people, which really drives clicks. And I hate that, not gonna lie. Like, I did a video on the worst films of 2024, and I usually don't do reviews like that, like, whatsoever. I really don't. That's not my style. But I decided to try it, and I did get some of those critiques that were like all like anti-Hollywood, anti-film industry, and I'm like, well, I do like Hollywood films. Like, those are the films that I mostly review and critique. Like, not all Hollywood films are bad. Like, they're not. But anyway, within this whole tangent, this answer is so wordy because I'm super passionate about this topic and I really kind of want to do a whole video on this. But I think that modern critics don't really have the background in film production that could actually make a really good film with a James Cameron budget. I do agree with that because I think there needs to be that training there. A lot of film critics, or at least like film critics on the internet, haven't had that training yet. They don't have that background, let alone a media background. I can understand nowadays film critique has definitely shifted a lot. With the rise of social media, more people are able to critique. I'm able to critique. I've talked about this a lot on my channel and a lot on my podcast, but I did study digital communications arts where I focused on film production. I also was in journalism when I was in college, and with my degree, I did take classes on journalism. I think you need to have an appreciation for film as well to be a really good critic. I think good critique comes from someone that has knowledge of movies. And with that, I mean someone that understands the technical aspects of movies, understanding that there's a lot of moving pieces to a film. I think actually learning the skills of filmmaking, at the very least writing, really does help you out. It really does take a village to become a good filmmaker. A filmmaker is only as great as their crew, as great as their talent, and vice versa. I'm actually going to put this into nominated but snubbed category, which is my B tier, because I think there needs to be a little bit more nuance. I think that the people that critique movies would need to put a lot of energy or at least have the background into film production so they could get their reps in, spend time on a set. There are some people within the film critique community, within the cinephile community, that also work on sets. And I think they do have potential of making a great film on a James Cameron budget. Just, it depends on what they are going to do with their time and money and that knowledge. By the way, if you like the vibe so far of this episode, consider giving this a like and subscribing to my channel if you want more commentary like this. And my next subscriber milestone is 250. Join the OG subscriber club. Next up, James Bond is in good hands over at Amazon. Okay, this one is very up in the air. Now, Amazon has a pretty good track record in regards to TV shows. Some of my favorite TV shows have come from Amazon. I really liked the show The Boys. I really liked I Am a Virgo. And I loved the show Swarm. And there are some decent Amazon movies as well. Amazon also bought MGM. And since then, they've made Saltburn, which I like. That's the one that comes on the top of my head. I know that's divisive. Some people, they're like, oh, that's not really a good case, Meg, but whatever. I like Saltburn. But yeah, but Google, there's a lot of great Amazon MGM movies. That being said, the James Bond franchise, there is a lot you can do with it. I think it has great potential of making great films. What would be really awesome is a James Bond TV series. Amazon will be pretty damn smart if they did that. Heck, I'll watch it. Now, I'm still holding my breath on whether or not that's a good opinion. I just have to see it. But I'm going to put this in Oscar winner tier because I agree with you. It has good potential, and as far as track record, the franchise is in pretty good hands. All right, the next opinion. The Shrek 5 trailer isn't that bad. You know what? The internet was crashing out over Shrek 5. Mostly because of the animation. They're trying to bully the animation like they did with Sonic. And they're trying to modernize the animation to look similar to other animated movies we're seeing today. Now, people are wondering, why are people freaking out because Puss in Boots The Last Wish changed their animation? What's different about this one? I could understand kind of that opinion, but again, the animation for Puss in Boots seems a lot better. We have to realize that this is only a trailer. This is not the final product. It could look better, but at the same time, they needed to work on the trailer a little bit longer. As far as it being cringe with the modern references, as far as the TikTok references, I don't mind that. Shrek has always made modern references, even back with the first film. It's just probably a lot of y'all were too young to recognize it. Like, they make a reference to the Matrix, among other things. Like, the references are there, just rewatch it, y'all. So I don't mind the TikTok references. Of course, they're going to reference the internet. I don't mind that Shrek and Fiona are older. I don't mind that Donkey looks older, even though he kind of looks he looks kind of haggard. I'm not gonna lie. What did they do with my boy Donkey? Some people were wondering where the other two Shrek's kids are. I'm wondering that as well. There's just, the trailer brings up a lot of questions. But with all that being said, I didn't absolutely hate it as much as the internet hates it. So I do agree with you, and I am giving your opinion Oscar winner. The trailer itself is not that bad, it's just the animation could have been better. Timothée Chalamet is criminally overrated. Okay, this is not a new opinion at all, so this is kind of weird calling it an unpopular opinion because there's a lot of people, especially on certain sides of the cinephile community, that do not mess with Timothée Chalamet. They're out there, so you are not alone, my friend. Do I think that he is overrated? I think that he is overexposed. His team is positioning him to be one of the A-list actors, and he's been nominated for an Oscar multiple times. And I think that that part of his filmography, ironically, is not looked at as much. I mean, a lot of people think Timothée Chalamet and they think Dune right away. They think Wonka now. They just see him as an actor who is in everything and then just doesn't understand the hype of him. Now, I think he is a good actor. A lot of people make the arguments that he is playing the same character in each role. Some of the overrated allegations are coming from him kind of being typecast as the heartthrob. But in recent years, he has expanded upon that. His role in Wonka was surprisingly really good. For what the movie was. I mean, the movie wasn't even that bad either. I was pleasantly surprised by it. He plays more of a whimsical Wonka, not really much of a sarcastic Wonka like Gene Wilder, but also not like a zany, kind of cringy, awkward Wonka like Johnny Depp. He just plays like this very naive character in that film. I did enjoy his performance as Bob Dylan. Again, if there are any Bob Dylan fans in the comments, let me know. How do you think he did? I personally don't think Timothée Chalamet is overrated. I do think he needs to expand his range a little bit more, and I think that's going to help him gain credibility, not only as an actor, but as far as the general public's opinion on him. I'm going to give this opinion Oscar bait. Martin Scorsese is more inconsistent than Ridley Scott. Oh, this is a spicy one. The film bros are not gonna like it. Let me look up Ridley Scott's filmography because I want to see what this means by inconsistent. Is this inconsistent as in tone, inconsistent as in quality of film, or inconsistent within release dates? So, since I have the time, let's break down all of them. Looking up the good old IMDb as we speak. And right now, I'm only focusing on his director credit. Ridley Scott, he is like booked and busy. So I'm guessing this is regarding projects. So of course, like Ridley Scott, he has made iconic movies. We have Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise. We have the first Gladiator, American Gangster. Of course, Alien. Like, there's a lot of good movies, but we also have a few flops too. And I think that's where this comment is relating to. We have House of Gucci. Napoleon had mixed reviews. Gladiator 2, even though I enjoyed it, it has mixed reviews. And so let's move on to the person in question, Martin Scorsese. I think that he has a consistent filmography when it comes to the quality of it. I think he does make banger after banger, really. But again, art is subjective. I personally like Scorsese films more than Ridley Scott films if we're talking about full filmography. Granted, there are some Ridley Scott films that I need to watch, and I might change my mind after that. So I am a little bit biased because I have watched more Scorsese films. But as far as quality of films in regards to consistency, I do think Martin Scorsese is more consistent than Ridley Scott, especially when it comes to like critical score. If we're talking about that, I put this in Oscar shortlist, but honestly, this is in between Oscar shortlist and Oscar bait because I do slightly disagree with you as well. But something else does need to go into Oscar shortlist, so I'm doing you a solid. Okay, I just took a sip of my boba tea and it's kind of like watered down because of the ice and because I've been recording for about an hour now. And not gonna lie, I kind of like it when it's watered down a bit. This is kind of crazy, but sometimes like boba teas are like way too sweet. So, and I keep forgetting to ask for half sweet. So, yeah. But anyway, that's my unpopular opinion for this as it relates to tea. Let me know if y'all feel me in that. But going back to y'all's unpopular opinions, Oppenheimer was overrated. Okay, this is interesting. Oppenheimer is one of those movies that has to grow on you. At least it had to grow on me the first time that I watched it. Oppenheimer is a movie unlike I have ever seen before. It's a historical movie about a very problematic historical figure, but also one that was oddly innovative, a very complicated historical figure, really. Even though it's dialogue heavy, it is very interesting, but it also gets really like trippy in some part. The score is also by Ludwig Göransson, who did Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Black Panther. So it is giving MCU, but it actually makes the story a little bit more interesting. There's also like historical cameos that felt like very MCU coded, but it was a slow burn. With all of that being said, it was a slower film. I felt myself getting sleepy the first time I watched it. To be completely honest, the only time I watched it. And it's one of those films that I think I was so overexposed to as far as the talks about Oppenheimer and how, with the Barbenheimer thing, it feels like one of those movies that I've seen multiple times, but I really haven't seen it. And by talking to other people, they did say that it's actually better upon second viewing. And I will give it a shot. And just by thinking about this movie a lot more, it did grow on me. Do I think that it's overrated? So when it won Best Picture for the Oscars, I do think there are other films that should have won, but that's all based off of favoritism and my personal personal taste. But I am not surprised that Oppenheimer won, just because it's a Christopher Nolan film. He is an icon in the film community. I mean, like, no wonder why his cast are so stacked. If Christopher Nolan asks you to be a part of his films, you better say yes. And if Christopher Nolan asked me to be in his films, I'm gonna say yes. I don't even care. Whatever. That's why there's so many actors in the Odyssey. Like, child, this cast is so stacked. Oppenheimer was stacked too. Had like every brunette white actor in existence in that movie. My god. Yeah, the cast was stacked for no reason. This is almost a similar case to the Timothée Chalamet comment about Timothée Chalamet being overrated. I don't think Oppenheimer was overrated. I just think Oppenheimer was very overexposed. Again, especially with Barbenheimer. And the internet is honestly to blame for that. It's the internet's fault for Oppenheimer being overexposed. Because Oppenheimer didn't do as much marketing as Barbie did. Point blank period. They did not. Y'all pushed Barbenheimer. Y'all did that. It's you guys. So I am going to put this in Oscar bait. Okay, the next one. Anora was nearly as bad as Amelia Perez. Come on now. Y'all, what the heck? That is a take. That is a take. Oh my gosh. There's so much to unpack with that. Okay. My first thought is, why would you think that? I need an explanation. Now, I didn't want to cheat for this. I did not want to get an explanation for this just for this unpopular opinion. I wanted to give my true reactions and thoughts to this. No, absolutely not. In what world is Anora just as bad as Amelia Perez? Here's the thing. Amelia Perez ended up offending the entire country of Mexico. Y'all, a movie has to be bad to offend an entire country. Even though Amelia Perez got 13 nominations and only won 2 for supporting actress for Zoe Saldana and for best song for El Mal, which El Mal is okay. It's the best song of Amelia Perez, let's be honest. But again, that's not really saying a lot. Anora is a better quality movie. Anora, technically speaking, is very impressive because Sean Baker did the directing, the writing, the editing, and he produced it. Like, that, it's an indie film through and through. So from a filmmaking standpoint, I think for one man to do a majority of the heavy lifting and for it to be a coherent film, I just think that's impressive in itself. I think the film was very enjoyable. And the reason why this is such a hot take, and I can understand why, it is very beloved within the cinephile community. And no art is subjective, but also objectively speaking, Anora is actually a pretty good film. And it's way better than Amelia Perez. I don't think it's just as bad. I just really need to know why. So if there are any Anora haters in the comments, please let me know, because I'm gooped and gagged and I'm very perplexed by this. So I am going to give this a Razzie. This is my F rating. Like, absolutely not. This is that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy to say. Okay, so this one was technically not submitted as an unpopular opinion, but I thought it was very funny and I wanted to add it. At the time of this recording, it was announced that Conan O'Brien is coming back to host the 96 Oscars, and I shared it on my Instagram story, and one of my followers slid into my DMs to say this. Conan O'Brien scared me as a child. I always thought he was a serial killer because of the red hair and strong face. Then I saw him stand up and realize he's like 6'7". Do you know how scary that is for a child to see a giant red-headed man with a funny face? I thought he was Pennywise. My cheeks are hurting. That is just so funny. That I can't. Like, I had to add that into this video because what? Technically, it's not an unpopular opinion. It's just like a child being innocent and scared. But that is wild. Like, I have never heard of a child being afraid of Conan O'Brien. I'm counting it because it is very unpopular to think Conan O'Brien is scary. This follower gave me permission to share it, but oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I'm only putting it in Oscar nominated tier, not because I agree, but because I just think it's just really, really funny. Well, that's it for the first edition of an Unpopular Opinions episode. Thanks to my Instagram followers. This was so much fun. So I definitely want to do this again. So give this a thumbs up. It shows the algorithm that you really dug this video. And to let me know that you will like more of this content, follow me on Instagram at Megan's World. That's MEAGINZ World. You will get first dibs on unpopular opinions. But since I'm new on YouTube, I want to know your unpopular opinions in the comments. Definitely share your unpopular opinions. I might add it to part 2. And if you like more ranking and review style videos, check out this playlist of my best and worst of 2024 series.